You know the feeling. It's 3 a.m. and you're just staring at the ceiling. We've all been there, right? That frustrating, exhausting search for sleep. But what if the solution isn't about forcing your mind to be quiet? What if it's about giving it something ancient to listen to? Something your brain has been hardwired to understand since long before you were even born.
And this isn't just a you and me problem, it's a global one. According to a huge new meta-analysis in Frontiers in Neuroscience, a staggering one-third of the world's population struggles with insomnia. Think about that. It's this silent epidemic that's messing with our mood, our health, our ability to just function.
And that brings us to this really fascinating question. We spend so much time and money looking for brand new solutions, but what if the most powerful one is also our oldest? A key that's been hidden not in some high-tech lab, but deep inside our own biology.
So, to really get why this idea is so powerful, let's first take a quick look at just how big this problem is, and why our usual ways of dealing with it, well, they often miss the mark.
For a lot of people, the go-to answer has always been medication. But as more and more research shows, while those pills might give you some short-term relief, they can come with some heavy baggage. We're talking the risk of dependency, your body getting used to them so they stop working, and even some pretty serious cognitive side effects. It's become really clear we need safer, more sustainable alternatives.
So could that alternative be something as simple as sound? Well, a growing mountain of research suggests the answer is a big yes, and honestly, the science behind it is just incredibly cool.
The official term is acoustic stimulation. And look, this isn't just any random noise. It's the very specific, targeted use of sound to gently guide your brain's activity. Kind of like tuning a guitar, right? Only in this case, the instrument is your brain, and the goal is to get it into the perfect rhythm for sleep. And this is not just some wellness trend, you know? A major meta-analysis from 2025 came right out and said it's an effective and safe treatment. But okay, what does effective actually look like when you dig into the data? Okay, this first chart is all about how people felt. They used a standard survey called the PSQI, where a lower score means better sleep. And just look at that difference. The group that used acoustic stimulation reported a huge drop in their scores. They subjectively felt that their sleep was just way, way better. And it wasn't only about feeling more rested. When they looked at the Insomnia Severity Index, which measures the actual clinical symptoms, the sound therapy group also showed a really significant drop. So the bottom line is, people didn't just feel like they were sleeping better. Their actual insomnia symptoms were improving. But here's where it gets really fascinating. Here's the puzzle. The same study found that when they looked at objective data, like the total number of minutes people were actually asleep, it didn't really change all that much. So how does that work? How can you feel profoundly more rested without actually sleeping more? Well, the answer takes us way, way back. It turns out, to understand why sound works so well on our adult brains, we have to understand the very first language our brain ever learned. And that language was sound. This timeline is just incredible. It shows you just how early this whole process starts. Your sense of hearing is one of the very first to come online. As early as 10 weeks into gestation, the inner ear is forming. By week 25, a fetus is already reacting to sounds from the outside world. And by the time a baby is born, it can already pick out the most important sound it knows, its mother's voice. Think about it. For 9 months, that's your entire world. A rhythmic, predictable soundscape of your mother's voice, her heartbeat, her breathing. That whole experience forges this incredibly deep, primal connection in our brains. It's our very first lesson. Consistent, rhythmic sound equals safety. It equals security. So let's connect that fundamental wiring to what we're seeing in modern sleep therapy. Because this really isn't a new trick. It's just us finally tapping into a very, very old system. Just look at this comparison. On the left, everything we already know about a lullaby. It calms a baby, it reduces stress, it provides a sense of security. Now look at the right, the mechanisms of acoustic therapy in adults. It's the exact same playbook. It reduces stress hormones, it calms the nervous system, and it creates a sense of safety. All the things you need to do before you can fall asleep. We are essentially singing a high-tech lullaby to our adult selves. And this really gets to the heart of it. This isn't just about masking noise, it's a deep physiological process. These specific sounds actually lower your cortisol levels. They calm that fight or flight response, and they send a signal of safety straight to your ancient brainstem. This creates the perfect internal conditions for sleep to happen, which is why we feel so much better, even if the total time doesn't change. It's all about the quality of our rest, not just the quantity.
Now, as with any emerging science, it's super important to be clear-eyed about what we know and what we still need to figure out.
So, this big analysis is really promising, but the authors are totally upfront about the limitations. A lot of the studies were pretty small, they relied heavily on what people said they felt, and there's a huge variety in the sounds they used. We need more research to really nail down the specifics of what works best for whom.
And that's exactly where the whole field is going. The future is about bigger, better studies, for sure, but it's also about personalization, creating soundscapes that are actually tailored to your individual brain activity. And of course, bringing in more objective data, like hormone levels and brain scans, to really understand what's happening under the hood. Which leaves us with a final, really powerful thought. We've seen how our oldest sense can help solve one of our most modern problems. But if sound truly is the first language of our nervous system, this language of safety that we learned before we ever took a breath, what else can it teach us? What other parts of our health and well-being are just waiting to be unlocked by the right frequency?